I reached $100 million net worth by the age of 29. I want to walk you through the whole journey with the goal that you can take the lessons and you can apply it to your own life. And at the end, what I want to do is break down the goal that I have next and what I anticipate I need to do to get there. So everything really began when I was 15 and I was living in Portage, Michigan, and I got my first job ever as a Subway sandwich artist. You know, the day-to-day was not glamorous. Those are the memories I have of Subway, is basically smelling like ham, having stained fingers, getting talked to like I was 5. The sole purpose of this job was just to have money and to get work experience so that I could get a job somewhere else to show that I at least have worked somewhere. The biggest lesson that I got from that job was understanding what I didn't want. I remember there was a day that I had off, not expected to be in. I didn't work that Friday, I was at school. The boss called, and I guess somebody had like called off or called sick, and they left a message on my house phone where my parents could hear it. And I remember I came home and they were like, "You've got a message." I'll just never forget. It was like, "Layla, you better get your fucking ass in here because Cindy called off to work today. We don't have fucking backup." And I was just like, holy shit, like this person left that on my home phone where like my whole family can listen to the voicemail. And so I called back and I left a message letting her know that I quit. So that was a great learning experience for me because I think at a very young age I realized like I will not work for somebody who treats me like shit. When I was 18, like I didn't think about consequences.
That's right.
I got arrested 6 times. Not an exaggeration, that is the factual number. For mostly drinking, so like minor in possession. I think that was pretty much the charges that they were. To be really honest, I don't think that I thought getting arrested was a big deal. Like I was just in a different mindset. Like I just didn't care. And I think it's because I didn't have an enticing vision of my future. And therefore I didn't care what I did in the present and how it would affect the future for me. And then the 6th time that I was arrested, they brought me to my parents' house because I woke up there and I was like, ah, fuck, I know what this means. I didn't have any memory of getting there. Woke up and there was like the arrest record right next to me on my bed of like my childhood room. And I was like, yeah, kill me. You know, I was expecting, I think my dad to like yell at me or be more angry or more punishing. But instead, I just remember he was like, I just really think you're gonna end up killing yourself. Whoa. In that moment was when I was like, yeah, I have to get my shit together. So I was like, okay, I need to get back in shape and I need to hang out with different people. I'm just gonna cut off everybody besides the people who I felt like were supportive of my goals, also had their own goals that would be harmonious to mine. That meant that I lost most of my friends. Honestly, it made it a lot easier to stop drinking when I wasn't hanging out with people who drank all the time. Engineered my whole environment to make it easier to achieve my goals and harder to fall off track. I started going to the gym again, wiped out all the food that was bad. If this is what's gonna get me healthy, then I'll do it. I just filled my extra time instead of drinking and partying with all these other things, constantly watching videos online. Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, like, because I knew on some level, if I was listening to people that were talking about those things, then I would start to think those things. So after I had taken some time to like get my shit together and I was on track, it was my last year in college and I went there for exercise science. You had to get an internship to do for 6 months. I was like, well, what's the best and hardest one? And I was like, I want to go for that one. So I flew out and I stayed on site. I did the interviews and it was tough. I figured I hadn't gotten it. I just figured it was a cool experience to go apply. And they called me and they were like, you got the first spot. They basically said you come out here for 2 quarters and you stay on site. The resort, I call it, was basically like one of the top 5 wellness retreats in the country. You know, I think that experience was what taught me what hard work feels like. You know, every day I would get up and I would have to be on site around 5 a.m. By the way, you had to have your hair and makeup done every day. They didn't care that we were teaching workout classes all day. It was like, are you wearing your eyeliner? I would go there on site and I would be teaching classes throughout the day. Teach a spin class, teach a boot camp, teach aerobics, and I would personal train people in between those. Incredibly physically exhausting. But I'm really glad that I experienced it because I think it set the tone for me of like, this is what life after college looks like. People are showing up there every day working like this, and this is what I have to expect afterwards. I don't ever think that you do yourself a disservice by learning how to kick it into like high gear. So I think it's more about knowing what you're capable of and showing yourself you're capable of it, because I know when shit hits the fan, I can kick it into that gear if I need to. I know what I'm capable of, and I've done it and I've proven it to myself. The day I graduated, I left. I didn't care. I just want to get the fuck out of there. I went to this job fair and I'll never forget. This girl was like, this is amazing. I'm 4 years out of college. You know, I only work like 40 hours a week and I'm making 85 grand a year. And I was like, wait, you've been doing it for 4 years though? She was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, no. I remember thinking, I was like, I need to just look at this differently, which is rather than trying to make the most amount of money from a job, I need to pursue jobs where I'm gonna learn. And so what I'll do is I'll drive out to California and I'll just literally walk and see what gyms are in walking distance. I'm just gonna get a job as a personal trainer. And I just kept thinking like, I just wanna learn. That's all I need to focus on. Don't focus on making money because I wanna make millions of dollars. I'm not gonna make it in any of these jobs. I had a lot of people that were my friends from college that they made a lot of money really quickly out of college, but they weren't learning anything. It's a little bit of a curse if you get like a really cush job out of college because you're comfortable and therefore you don't push yourself. I wasn't comfortable at all. I was making jack shit at first. It was commission only sales job at this gym. You know, you've got 4 weeks to prove that you can sell, otherwise you're out. And I was like, oh my God. And so that forced me to learn. You know, I look back at it now and what I did is I put myself in an environment that was conducive to my goals. And so it helped me to put myself in an uncomfortable environment so I could grow faster. And I think that's the best thing I did out of college. After I had been in fitness, working in gyms, I worked in a few different gyms. I had for that whole time, I just like didn't give a shit about dating. And then finally after about it, you know, a little over a year, I was like, all right, this is dumb. Everyone's dating people. It's like a whole thing. And they're like, why are you not dating people? And I'm like, I don't know. And I remember my manager at the time, he made such an argument for me dating. He was like, Layla, if you go on dates, it's gonna get you better at sales. He's like, because it's the same thing. It's a numbers game. And so you just need to go on a ton of dates. And just like you talk to a ton of prospects, not all of them buy, it's the same as dating. I went on a date a week and I hated it. It was not fun at all. I had so many bad dates. Like, I feel like I was at like the precipice of giving up. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna take a break. Like, it's exhausting. And I met Alex, my now husband, on Bumble. I think I was intrigued because, you know, he was like, immediately was like, give me your phone number. And I was like, amazing, yes, here it is. Here, stranger, take my phone number. And then he was like, I figured that we could just get our first date out of the way and talk on the phone. And I was like, oh, I like this guy. This is cool. It's kind of like how I do calls with prospects. You know, we had the phone call and I just appreciated his directness. Then we scheduled like our first date. I actually wanted to cancel it. I texted him and I was like, I'm sick, I can't go. And this motherfucker calls me and he's like, hey. And I was like, hey. He's like, you don't sound sick. You're fine. I'll see you tomorrow. And I was just like, what? And so we went on a date. I met him for Froyo the next day. The most interesting date I had been on because I think I walked away not thinking like, oh my God, this is my future husband and this and that. I was just like, I just keep wanting to talk to him. I remember feeling like for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like alone. I remember thinking like after, I was like, I don't even care if we date, but like, I'd really like to be friends with this guy. It was what kind of kicked off our relationship. I think everyone has different sides to themselves. He has a very intense side that I think he was fully immersed in that when I met him. Yeah, I remember thinking he was Christian Bale. Because I walked in and it was like this very well-organized water, yogurt, egg whites, Diet Coke. And I was just like, that's it? Like, this is the house? You know what I mean? I was like, this guy's so weird. Then he was touring me the house. We walked into this hallway and it was just like animals in like attack mode. Like there was like a hippo and it was like, and then there was like a lion and it was like, and then there was like a panther like on the prowl. And I was like, why do you have all these like aggressive animal pictures? And he was like, to remind me to always be the hunter, not the hunted. And I was like, oh, geez, okay. And I don't think I was ready for it. You know, I think I just started laughing. Like, I think I couldn't stop laughing. And he was like, what the fuck? You know, I think he was like, why are you laughing at me? And I was like, are you joking? Like, are you for real? Or is this like staged? Like it was, I just couldn't take, you know, I'm not that serious. So I was like, what? Alex had 6 gyms, realized I was very good at fitness sales. I had established my career there. He wanted to start this company called Gym Launch. Kept saying, you should come do this with me. I need to see if somebody else can do it. At the same time, I kept thinking like I could start my own gym because now I understand how it works to open a small brick and mortar. He just would always say the same thing. He's like, you should do neither of those things because you'll make way more money and have way more fun if you do this with me. It didn't take long for me to cave, because I think, you know, enough times of him talking about it, and he was serious. He was like, come on, like this would really work. And I was like, I would be good at this. You know, I think it didn't take long because I had always had the mentality at that point in my life of taking risks because I was young. You know, at that point I was 23. And I just remember so many people always telling me, they're like, you're young, take the risk. Yeah, there was no vision for Gym Launch. There was, we're gonna make money and we're not gonna work for other people. You know, what Alex talked about was we can launch gyms, we can market, sell, and retain customers. So if I've been able to do it at all of my 6 gyms, you understand all these fundamentals as well, why can't we do it for other people's gyms? And so basically we would go out to their gyms, do the marketing and the sales, and then they would keep the customers. There wasn't a huge plan behind it. And I think that's where a lot of people get really misconstrued. In the beginning, they think that they have to have this like giant vision. I think you just need to fucking get started. Like you just need to do something. Have no vision for all I care, just take action. Yeah, in the early days of Gym Launch, nothing worked. What we didn't realize was that I'm a 23-year-old female that flies out to this like 40-year-old established gym owner's gym. I market and sell and make $150,000 from his gym by myself at the age of 23. I then leave and leave you with all the customers. Now I gave you a percentage of the sales, but I took most of it. How do you feel? Not great. What it was is they would be resentful of what we were doing. We didn't incentivize them. We incentivized ourselves and the customers, but not the gym owner. After some time, we just realized that wasn't working. I remember this lady called me. She was like, Matt just stood up on a chair and just told us all to charge back a refund with you and that we could sign up through him for half of what we paid you. And I was like, oh no. You know, we had no formal agreements with these people. We had nothing legitimate. That happened with one gym and then another gym did it. And that was enough that we had like negative $250,000. And then when that came in, we were like, oh shit, profit's all gone. How the hell are we gonna pay back $200,000? Because what we would do is we would take that money and we would pour it into marketing for the next location and the flights and the hotel and the cars. And so we were like, this model is fundamentally broken, and the only way to get out of this and to pay all this money back, which we were like, we have to do, is to make even more by doing more launches. And at that point, we're like, we can't do that. I had been still servicing online clients, and Alex was like, fuck it. I should just be the back end, you should be the front end. Let's make you like a weight loss business and you should be the face of it. And then I'll just market and you sell them in and we'll just call it a day. We started doing that. Alex built out a funnel. I built out the entire course, and then we put it all together and then we started selling. That was what we were going to do. He was like, all right, I'm gonna call up all these gyms we have planned out. I'm gonna let them know that this isn't working. And so he called the gym owners that we had lined up for the next few months, and he was like, listen, we're canceling. You didn't pay us anything. We were gonna do it for free and do a rev share anyways. Like, it is what it is, man. Like, this model doesn't work for me. So desperate. The first guy was like, you can't cancel on me, dude. He's like, my gym will go under. And I remember Alex like being on the phone looking at me, and I was like, fuck. Like, we were in the industry, so it's like, we have a lot of empathy for people going through that. We were like, fuck, we don't want this guy to be like fucked. And he's like, how much do I have to pay you to just like show me what you're doing? And Alex was like, $6,000. And he's like, but I literally am not involved. I'll just like give you the trainings that we have for our team. And the guy was like, done. So we called the next guy, and I swear every conversation was the same one. And by the end, we had talked to 8 gym owners, and they all said, I would pay you. And by the end of that day, we had made like $42,000. I remember I had also at the same time been selling people into this weight loss program. And at the end of the day, I'm like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Alex was, I think we just gotta sell the secret. I remember he was like, this is it. He was like, I'm gonna sell the secrets and we're just gonna get the fuck out of this industry. And I was like, okay. He's like, we'll just sell it to as many people as want it, and they can just do this. We don't have to fly out anywhere, and then like we'll just be done. And so in our minds, this was not a business. This was just like a finite until it's done and we've paid off the money. And I don't think we could have anticipated what happened next, which was like a flood. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. I mean, people were DMing me left and right on Facebook, because what happened was these first group of gym owners, we put them into the program. We took all of our trainings and everything, we put them into a course, we kicked it off. And in the first 2 weeks, one guy made 50 grand, another guy made 30 grand, another guy made 38,000. I mean, it was just like absurd. They were making the same amount that Alex and I were. And we were like, holy shit. And so then they were telling all their friends, and then it spread like word of mouth I've never seen before. It was absurd. That was how the business actually started. Like at the end of the day, it works. We have a product that we were able to design advertising for gyms in a way that they could $1 in and they would get $20 out. That's what we had cracked. We just so happened to crack it before anybody else did. And that is luck. So like our experience combined in the industry, plus the timing, plus the ability to crack the one thing that nobody else had. That all, and then the word of mouth was like absolutely insane. We're such advocates of word of mouth because if you have the right product, you barely need to like market it. So like fix the product, you know, and then it'll market for itself. The product is everything. We spent most of our time on R&D. So when I say R&D, if we wanted to help improve something and stay on the cutting edge, anytime we rolled anything out, it was all based on information that we got from our customer base. So many times when business owners are like, I don't know what to do about X, Y, and Z, we would look at all of our client base and say, who's getting the best return on their advertising? And then we would take the top 10 and we would bring them into a focus group and we would ask them a series of questions to identify what are the common traits between these gym owners, between what they're doing, their team, their advertising, their market, whatever it is, so that we could duplicate it for others. That's really what R&D was. So we spent like $50,000 a month on R&D, just testing stuff because we needed to stay ahead. That's how we became the market leader, was understanding it was all about the product, it was all about the results that we delivered, and it was all about maintaining that positioning by never getting comfortable. But that's what always has kept us ahead. You know, we still to this day have somebody who's ahead of R&D, who's constantly focused on innovating the product, who constantly is making sure that we're getting ahead and we're doing what's working the best right now. And so we've always been able to deliver results in that business. There was one really clear piece that they said too. They're like, Alex, don't go help Layla. I remember a mentor saying that. Do not help Layla. She can figure this out. You trying to help her when neither of you know how to do this is only showing her that you don't think she can do it. That was like one of the best things that we could have had, because I see so many business owners now, especially married, and the husband doesn't realize that he's undermining the wife by overly inserting himself to help her. And I'm so glad that Alex has literally never done that to me. He has only ever supported and encouraged me and said, you can do this. That was a key piece that I think is so underestimated. One of the first things I do with companies is I help clarify their roles. It's incredibly important. So year 2 of the business, I think we did 27 million in revenue and like 17 million in profit. There was no context as to how well we were doing. I think what a lot of people assume is that when a business is going really well financially, that it feels good. But if you don't have experience, you don't even have the lens of which to judge if it's going well. When you're growing that fast, it feels like jumping off a plane with no parachute and having to figure out how to pull the parachute on the way down while you're falling. And so it's just constant urgency and also not knowing what the fuck you're doing in a situation that's high stress. Like all of like the fun and like lightness that I had in my body just like left me for 4 years. And I think I was just like a complete robot. You know, I was always scared that I was gonna make some mistake and lose all of our money. You go from having no stakes at all and no consequences to if you don't do well, to having a huge amount of consequences and stakes if you don't do well. And to go from one to the other so quickly is a lot to adjust to. Fast growth companies, typically the people that are there year 1, 90% of them are gone by year 5. And it's because you have, say, a staff accountant or a director of operations who can do the job while the company's at 5 million. But then the director of operations for a $5 million company versus a $100 million company are completely different jobs. So what it is that everyone's job changes every like 6 months because the company changes so much. I saw it happening in the company and I read about it and I was like, oh, I really hope that's not gonna happen here. And unfortunately it did, and very quickly. You know, it was year 3 that I realized a lot of the people I put in leadership positions were like, they're not qualified for the job and I don't have the skills to teach them. I wasn't even good at training people at this point in time. So they all got fired. You know, it was the worst part of my career because I always have just been motivated by building a place where people want to work. I took it so seriously. I beat myself up over it and it didn't do anything. You know, I just felt like shit and I probably didn't show up as a good leader for my whole team. Now I look back at it and I'm like, these are the decisions that you have to own as a company. You will make mistakes. You have to own those mistakes, and beating yourself up absolutely doesn't serve you. I actually, in hindsight, handled it as well as I think I would right now. I don't think I could have handled it any better. Some things went wrong. Like I went to do a layoff and my director of human resources leaked it. and then everyone freaked out and panicked. And then I had people quit that I wasn't even gonna let go of. People blew it out of proportion, and we lost more people than we were anticipated. And I had spent, 2 months. I had planned the whole thing so there was no group layoffs, it was all one-on-one. Like, I read everything about this and I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it as gently as possible. I knew it was going to be really hard for them, but I was going to do it in the best way possible to avoid it being like something that they have to carry with them forever. That was a really big turning point for me because I realized there's a lot of times in business when we know we need to do something, but there's so many things going on that we choose not to, and it continues to build. I learned that not everything is always going to go as planned, and you have to plan for the unplanned. And now I plan for those things, because if I had planned for someone to leak it or do this or do that, I would have been adaptable to the situation. I think the biggest thing is that everything's really hard the first time because of the unknown. The moment that it's happened, you can predict, and then it is automatically less frightening. It's okay to be nervous and scared and stressed. It's fucking hard, and especially hard for people who really want to do well. So while running Gym Launch, we kind of had a decision at one point, which was how are we going to continue to grow this beyond the current product offering, which at that point I think was doing 30 million a year in just one product. We'll probably need a different product in here. And the question that we had was, do we go international, or do we start a physical products line that can sell through the distribution base of the gyms? And so we decided to do the physical products line simply because it seemed more familiar to us. We did the physical products because one of the core things that we had done when Alex and I would launch gyms is we would sell people supplements. And so we thought, like, how cool would it be if we could build a supplement line that not only was like a very ethically sound line of supplements, but also one that you could make a fuck ton of money on as a gym owner. And so we made one with like the highest quality of ingredients. We had the gyms sell it through their locations, and they would sell it to their customers. That was the second business that we started when I was 26. I think it was a really good business that I learned a lot from, because I got the experience with physical products, got the experience with technology, got the experience with selling through affiliates rather than directly to them. The moment that we launched it, it did like 1.8 million the first month because we already had a customer base. As much as we thought it was a part of Gym Launch, it wasn't. It's a completely separate business. We often underestimate how much another product line is going to distract us. Continuously felt like I had 2 children from that point on that were asking for my attention. It was like, Prestige needs this, Gym Launch needs this team needs you, this team needs you. Though they were symbiotic in that we sold the supplements through the gym base, it was a different business. Well, the results were good, but like the process sucked. The reason for that was like, I didn't understand this one fundamental thing. If you split a team's attention, neither thing can grow as quickly or as well. And I think now I just completely understand. I would have from day one built a mini leadership team for Prestige, but instead I split my leadership team to be above all. And I would have never done that again. That was probably the biggest thing I learned from Prestige, was the value of focus. I feel like a lot of people who have kids have like one that's not the favorite, and Alan was that for me. Fundamentally, I think that the reason it wasn't going to succeed was because Alex and I didn't agree on it. It's the only thing that we've never agreed on. And then we moved forward anyways, not agreeing. So Alan is a software that works leads automatically. It's basically an AI-powered tool. Goal or output of Alan is that it gets the person in the door, or it gets them to the appointment. Like, it's not like a process-driven, it is an outcome-driven. So it maximizes everything to get the person to show up for an appointment. We spent a lot of money on development, I think like almost $2 million on dev at that point. And then I joined a software coaching program. I learned everything we'd done with dev was wrong. And I was like, we're fucked. But I was so distracted having Gym Launch and Prestige still. I was like, how the hell am I gonna do this too? I groomed enough leaders in Gym Launch and Prestige that they were able to maintain a lot of that with me gone. And then I put myself on Alan to basically build it up from the ground up. Though it was monetarily successful, it had a lot of second order consequences in year 2 and 3 from being built so quickly with not the proper technology. Having to clean that up taught me that taking more time to build something is always a smarter way to go, because fixing mistakes takes longer than just doing it right the first time. It's still a business and they made it much better. It's a great product. And so that brought me a lot for acquisition.com, because I said to myself, if I want to build acquisition.com to $1 billion business, how long do I think reasonably it would take to build the base? Maybe 5, 7, or 8 years. But if I build it right, then like I can really build something that can go to $1 billion. I think it's like we want to make money. That's why a lot of people get into business. They feel successful, and they can't delay it, and therefore they make decisions in the short term that sacrifice the long term. And that was the biggest thing I got from Alan. We sold it to a strategic buyer, and then they spent, God, years cleaning it up. And if we had just built it right the first time, it probably would be much bigger than it is now. And so I've taken that and applied it with acquisition. And the bigger you want a business to be, the bigger the foundation is, which means the longer it takes to get there. What we realized was that we didn't want to stay in the fitness industry. Not because I think it's bad, but because when I look at other industries, applying our skill set to industries with larger opportunities, I felt like that made more sense. Like I felt like our skill set put on a different vehicle in a bigger opportunity would allow us to capitalize on our skills more than we were in our current. When we first decided that we were going to sell the business, we had a CFO we had brought on. That was something she'd done a lot before. Without her, I don't even know if we would have gotten the thing sold, because people didn't understand what Gym Launch did, and they also didn't understand how the two worked together. And I think they also thought that Alex and I were like integral to the business, whereas we had actually outsourced it at that time. It was an interesting process. It was a lot of first phone calls, getting to know people, a lot of bankers and PE flying in, getting to know us, talking to us. And then, COVID hit. And then the process changed a lot. And we kind of took it off the market for a little bit. Everyone said, they were like, if you wait, you can sell it for 9 figures. Like at this point, I think we had like 45 million in cash. And I'm like, I don't care. It's like, I just don't want to do this for another 2 years. It's more like, I don't want to wait to live the future out. Is that worth that much money to me? We decided no, we want to do this. We know what we want to do next. So we sold it for less than I think it was worth. So we got 45 million in cash, and then the rest we rolled over as stock. So we still own 35% of the business. And so we now just sit on the board. If anyone's watching this as a small business and you're still needed in your business, like fucking think twice before you try to sell it, because I've seen that process put a lot of businesses under. If you're needed to run the business, I don't know how you do it. It is such a distraction because it's an entirely new product of its own, and it takes an immense amount of time and effort. Acquisition.com was partially sparked from we met with so many different bankers and PE firms. They're doing this with our business, and they don't even know how to run a business. They just know how to buy businesses. We were like, what if we could learn how to partner with businesses and know how to run them? Like, how much could we help them? And so we were like, what if we could engineer a model where we could do right by the customer, the business, and the employee, and us? And so that was really the vision for Acquisition.com. Almost like an anti-PE approach to PE. Like, how can we make this a good thing for business owners rather than like you're getting exploited and taken advantage of? You hear so many business owners just sell their business and then they're like, yeah, they've really run it into the ground. Yeah, it's really like not the same. I was like, what if you could do it and then it could be better? We felt like our skill sets and what we wanted to do on a daily basis, talking with cool CEOs, working with a team of very smart people that are specialized in helping build out each function of the business, recruiting leadership for the key roles, like doing all those things are what we're very good at and love doing. And what if we could do it within a vehicle that traditionally, is the opposite, acquiring businesses in a way that it's not like we're going out and like fishing for them. They're coming to us and saying, I want to partner with Acquisition.com. So what Acquisition.com does is we're a growth partner. So essentially what we do is we buy into the business with brand, work, and money. Typically we lead with work because what we do is we come in and we deploy our team of experts on the functions of the business to help grow it. Most of the people that come to us honestly are successful, so they don't need a ton of capital. Versus I think a lot of traditional investors, they lead with capital and they try to do no work and try no brand, nothing. We're looking for people who want to grow the business. They want to make an impact. They want to be a market leader. They want to make a place where people love to work. They have a passion for what they're doing and they want to capitalize on it. And we're trying to find those few stars from those applications that we would be proud to partner with. People that are in it for more than the money. Because if that's the only reason that you're running this business, we're not going to be good partners. I want to associate with businesses who want to make an impact. So we started tracking net worth from I think like year 2 of Gym Launch. When I was 29 was when we crossed 100 million in net worth. I think a lot of people ask, they're like, do you have like your self-worth tied to money? And I'm like, no, not at all. For me, it's not more money to have like a luxurious lifestyle. it's more money to make an impact. For acquisition.com to be worth $1 billion, it's actually not even as much as I thought. We would have to have like close to 50 million in EBITDA to be valued at that. The path has become more clear as I've been educated more on what it actually looks like to be valued at that. I think that the biggest thing that I need to do is just become a much more patient person. The path to $1 billion with this vehicle, it needs to go slow and then it goes very fast. I feel like I get that, but I feel like I need to become the kind of leader that can like really instill that amongst other people on the team so that nobody ever feels rushed. Rushed actions create mistakes, so we have to be very careful about the decisions we do make because it takes a long time to see them out and a long time to correct a mistake. But I feel like if I watch this video in like 15 years, I'm gonna be like, that was the right move. I mean, I think at some point, if you're trying to change your life, if your environment is working against you, then it is incredibly difficult to make that change.